No celebrity has been more public with their struggle with addiction than Robert Downey Jr. For decades, his battle with substance abuse derailed a promising career and nearly cost him his life. After hitting rock bottom with a prison stint in the late 90s, Downey embarked on a remarkable road to recovery that's brought him over 20 years of sobriety and unprecedented success in Hollywood. In a recent interview, the Iron Man star revealed harrowing new details about his time incarcerated and how it served as the turning point to transforming his life. Join Factsverse as we explore Downey's story of facing adversity and finding redemption. Entering the system. The day the judge handed down Robert Downey Jr.'s 3-year prison sentence seemed surreal. As he was led away in handcuffs, the reality of the situation hit him like a ton of bricks. He was transported to the LA County Jail, where he awaited transfer to state prison. Those initial weeks in jail were some of the darkest of his life. As withdrawal symptoms raged throughout his body, all he could think about was how much he wanted to use again to escape the pain. Sleep was torturous when it came at all. Downey replayed the events that led to this moment on an endless loop filled with deep regret. After what felt like an eternity, he received word he would soon be departing for California Correctional Institution in Corcoran. On the lengthy bus ride over, anxiety gnawed at him. When the rundown facility finally came into view, he was filled with dread. His worldly possessions were confiscated, and he was stripped nude to be deloused and given an ill-fitting uniform. He was ushered through security gates into a large holding area with hundreds of other incoming inmates. After initial processing, he was assigned to a cell block. As he followed his guide through tight corridors and past iron bars, the gravity of the situation weighed on him. When they arrived at his cramped cell with its thin mat and toilet, Downey sat stunned as the door slammed shut. This was rock bottom. In the coming days, he kept mostly to himself as he adjusted to the unstable environment, observing tensions between groups and avoiding trouble. Survival in a dangerous environment. Downey quickly learned that constant vigilance was a necessity for survival in prison. Tensions between gangs were always nearing a boiling point. He observed how groups would assert dominance by attacking perceived rivals. Downey tried his best to avoid notice while still gaining some understanding of the intricate social hierarchy. One afternoon, as he lifted weights in the yard, a skirmish broke out nearby. Within seconds, it escalated into an all-out melee. Downey stood frozen, watching in horror as inmates beat each other with their hands and anything available. It seemed an eternity before guards deployed with batons swinging, but the damage was done. Downey was haunted by the viciousness. Crowded conditions meant avoiding all contact was impossible. Downey constantly felt eyes watching and sizing him up. He received overt threats from those wanting to prove themselves against the celebrity. In the chow hall one day, an aggressive inmate bumped into Downey and spewed vulgar insults, causing tensions to flare until others intervened. Sanitation was also a struggle. Odors, lack of privacy, and contagions ran rampant. He battled persistent illness. Perhaps most difficult was the lack of substances to numb his tortured mind. Constant cravings consumed him, yet giving in could mean severe punishment or becoming a target. He began exploring alternative means of coping with volatile emotions and struggles through exercise, correspondence courses, and socializing minimally for protection. He realized he must fully rely on his wits and remain constantly wary if he hoped to persevere in this dangerous new world. Hitting rock bottom. Downey's first months in prison had been an unrelenting mental and physical battle. Constant dangers, filthy conditions, a lack of privacy, random eruptions of violence, and no escape from turbulent emotions all chipped away at his stability. Nearly every night, as he lay staring at the ceiling in his cramped and frigid cell, memories from his past would flood back in excruciating clarity. He endlessly replayed his spiral into addiction, multiple arrests, and the recent hearing where the judge robbed him of his freedom. Hindsight showed him how many lives he had damaged along the way, including neglecting his young son. These realizations ate away at Downey's spirit, dragging him deeper into a pit of despair and guilt. One rainy afternoon, as Downey paced the confines of his cell, an overwhelming surge of clarity hit him. He understood without a doubt that this prison was just a symptom of the living hell his life had become. If he didn't change his ways, death was the only destiny awaiting on the outside. He finally faced the truth. He was powerless over his addiction, and it had brought him to rock bottom. For days afterward, a heavy cloud of depression shrouded him as the reality of squandering his potential sunk in. But a flicker of resolve began. A recognition took hold that for perhaps the first time in his adult life, he was unequivocally alone in dealing with his troubles. He clearly saw prison as not just a consequence, but a second chance. The road to recovery. Emerging from his moments of clarity, he was determined to put the pieces of his life back together. He eagerly sought out any educational or rehabilitation programs available through the prison to work on bettering himself. He threw himself into the correspondence courses, spending hours poring over materials to actively engage his mind. He signed up for classes focused on addiction treatment, codependency, healing past trauma, and constructive communication. The lessons gave Downey invaluable insights into how his disease manifested and new skills to cope healthily without substances as a crutch. He was absorbed in self-help books, eager to learn different philosophical approaches. He also started attending Narcotics Anonymous meetings held weekly, connecting with men at similar stages of recovery. He eventually became a sponsor, helping guide others just initiating the program. Lending support to his peers reinforced and strengthened his own knowledge base. As his release date neared, he feared testing his new tools in the real world. He began planning safe housing and intensive outpatient counseling. He also mended relationships with his family, gaining their belief in his recovery for the first time. Overcoming adversity. Looking back from his current position of global fame and prosperity, Downey can clearly see how facing immense adversity early on built fortitude that has strengthened him. While imprisonment was a terrifying ordeal, he acknowledges it played a pivotal role in his journey by forcing honest self-reflection. Removed from all safety nets and left totally alone with his innermost demons, he was liberated from denial and had a fiery determination to rewrite his ending. Today he stands as living proof that even those deemed beyond redemption can overcome via diligence, service, and challenging limitations. Downey's success story combating addiction offers hope to millions worldwide that they too hold capacity for healing and self-authorship if they refuse to surrender. Now it's time to hear from you. What part of Downey's struggle was most surprising to hear about? Let us know in the comments section below.